He promised our love was a bridge between two faiths. I thought we were building something that would last forever, but on the night I finally ran, with nothing but my passport and a prayer my mother taught me, I understood. Our marriage was never a bridge. It was a cage. His love wasn't a gift. It was the bait in a trap that cost me everything. The promise of forever was a lie, and the price of that lie was my soul. It's strange to say it now, almost like talking about someone else's life, but our beginning really was a fairy tale. I met him in the city. I'd moved there for school, away from the familiar embrace of my family and community for the first time. I grew up in a traditional Hindu household. Faith was the air we breathed. My world was rituals, festivals, and the gentle guidance of my parents. He was different. He was Muslim, and he carried his world with this quiet, confident grace that I just found captivating. He was calm, soft-hearted, and seemed to have more Hindu friends than Muslim ones. I saw this liberal, modern man, someone who could walk between two worlds without any effort. When I told him about my life, my beliefs, my family, he listened with such intensity. He asked questions. He wanted to learn the stories behind our gods and the meaning behind our festivals. He'd come with me to the temple and wait patiently outside, never once making me feel like my faith was some kind of obstacle. It was intoxicating. For a girl who had only known one way of life, he was a window into a whole new universe. Our conversations were endless. We'd talk about the future, about a life where our differences wouldn't be walls, but windows. He used to say, "Our children will be so lucky. They'll have the richness of two beautiful faiths. They'll learn from the Quran and the Gita. They'll celebrate Diwali and Eid with the same joy." I believed him. I wanted to believe him so badly. He made love feel like the most logical thing in the world. He made our union feel destined. My family, though, didn't see a fairy tale. When I finally got the courage to tell them about him, their world just fell silent. To them, an interfaith marriage, especially with a Muslim man, wasn't just a concern, it was impossible, a betrayal. My father, whose gentle eyes had only ever held love for me, now looked at me with a pain I couldn't stand. My mother cried for days. They pleaded with me, they reasoned. They warned me. "You don't understand his world," they'd say. "It's not as simple as you think. You'll be forced to give up everything you are." I thought they were being dramatic, just trapped in an older generation's fears. I was convinced our love was stronger than their prejudice. I saw their warnings not as protection, but as a challenge to the love I was so sure of. And he was there through it all, my rock. He'd hold my hand and say, "It's okay. They just need time. They'll see how much I love you. They'll see that our love respects everything you are." He even met my father, spoke calmly and respectfully, and made promises I now know he never, ever intended to keep. The day I chose him, I lost my family. It was the most painful decision of my life. I packed a bag and walked out of the home I grew up in, the sound of my mother's weeping following me down the street. It felt like tearing myself in two. But I told myself it was for love, that it was a sacrifice worth making, that one day they'd understand and come back to me. We had a simple court marriage. As I signed the papers, I felt this profound loneliness, a void where my family should have been. But then I looked at him, and he smiled that smile that had captured my soul, and I pushed the feeling down. We were together. We had our forever. That's all that mattered. That first year was beautiful, a blissful bubble that seemed to prove all my sacrifices were worth it. He was attentive, loving, and we built a home that felt like a sanctuary. But looking back now, I can see the cracks were already there, even in that first year. They were so small, so easy to dismiss, like tiny fractures in a foundation you refuse to believe is crumbling. It started with my clothes, a gentle suggestion here and there. "You look so beautiful in more modest things," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "It shows your inner beauty." At first, I was flattered, but then it became a more frequent comment. My sleeveless tops got pushed to the back of the closet, then my jeans. He never forbade them, not in the beginning. He was too smart for that. He just made me feel wrong for wearing them, uncomfortable, as if I were disrespecting him by holding on to my old self. Then came the first festival. Diwali, the Festival of Lights, was always my favorite time of year. I bought little diyas, planning to line our balcony with them. He came home and saw them, and his face just fell. "Darling," he said, and his voice had this soft disappointment that was so much worse than anger. "We're a family now. Our family. Shouldn't we be building our own traditions?" He suggested we go out for a nice dinner instead. It felt so wrong, but I agreed. I didn't want to fight. I told myself marriage is about compromise. So I packed the diyas away, and with them, a small piece of my heart. His family was another story. His mother had been Hindu before her own marriage, and I'd hoped she'd be an ally. But she was distant, her eyes holding this pitying sadness when she looked at me. His father and brothers were polite, but cold. In their home, I felt like an exhibit. Conversations would stop when I walked into a room. The language would switch, leaving me adrift. When I asked him about it, he'd just squeeze my hand and say, "They just need to get to know you. Be patient." The first time his temper really flared was over something silly. I was humming a bhajan, a devotional song my grandmother taught me while I was cooking. He walked into the kitchen and his face was like thunder. "Can you not do that?" He snapped. The gentle man was gone, replaced by a hardness I'd never heard. I was so stunned, I just stared. Seeing my shock, he immediately softened. He came over, wrapped his arms around me, and apologized over and over. "I'm so sorry," he whispered into my hair. "Work has been so stressful. I'm on edge. It's not you." And I believed him. I forgave him instantly. But that moment was the first time I felt a real flicker of fear. The first time the mask slipped, revealing a stranger, the pattern had begun. Control disguised as concern. An outburst, followed by a flood of remorse. He kept me off kilter, always questioning myself. Was I being too sensitive? Was I the problem? I thought I was just adjusting to married life. I didn't realize I was being conditioned. He started making comments about my friends, the few who stuck by me after my family cut me off. He'd point out how they didn't really understand our life, how they were a bad influence. Slowly, I stopped calling them. It was just easier than dealing with the look on his face when I came home. My world, once so big, was shrinking until it only contained him. And at the time, I thought that was romance. I didn't realize I was being isolated. I didn't see the walls of the cage being built around me, one gentle suggestion at a time. The next couple of years were a slow, suffocating descent into a nightmare. The loving man I sacrificed everything for was vanishing, replaced by a cold, brutal controller who saw me as a possession to be broken and remade. The lie of our interfaith union unraveled completely, exposing the horrifying truth. His love was conditional, and the condition was my complete surrender. The pressure to convert started as a whisper and grew into a roar. The same man who promised our children would celebrate both Diwali and Eid now said, "Our children need a clear identity. We can't confuse them. For their sake, for our family's unity, you should embrace Islam." When I reminded him of his promises, of that beautiful bridge he described, a cold look came into his eyes. "People change. We grow," he'd say. "I thought you'd want to grow with me. If you truly loved me, you would want to be part of my world completely." He brought an imam to our house. I was told it was just a conversation, a chance to learn. It felt like an interrogation. I was confused and pressured, asked to repeat words in Arabic I didn't understand. Only later did I realize what happened. In their eyes, I had converted. When I confronted him, crying and betrayed, he pretended he had no idea. But soon, that pretense dropped. It wasn't a request anymore. It was a demand. The most humiliating moment came one evening at dinner. My religion forbids eating beef. It's a sacred rule I have held my entire life. He knew this. He claimed to respect it. That night, his family was over and his mother served a meat curry. He put a large portion on my plate. I politely refused. "You know I don't eat this," I said quietly, trying not to make a scene. He looked at me, his eyes empty of any warmth. In front of his whole family, he said, "You are in this family now. You will eat what we eat. You are not a Hindu anymore." I later read about this. It's called being fed beef, a specific act of religious coercion designed not for nourishment, but for degradation. I started to cry, shaking my head. His voice dropped to a menacing whisper, "Eat it." I felt all their eyes on me, judging. I felt so alone. That night, a part of me died. I was stripped of my identity, my faith, and my will, all over a plate of food. The physical abuse started soon after. A shove during an argument, a hand gripping my arm so tight it left bruises. The first time he threw me against the headboard of our bed, the shock was so deep I couldn't even process it. This was the man who had promised to protect me. The Violence became a regular part of his need for absolute control. He would trap me in rooms, blocking the door during his tirades. He began to destroy my life outside the home. He went behind my back, telling my colleagues and friends that I was unstable, that I was crazy. He was so charming, so respected that people believed him. He'd threaten me, saying no one would ever believe me over him. It was like I was living a double life. In public, the happy, devoted wife. In private, a nervous wreck, walking on eggshells, trying to predict his moods. It was like living with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I was trapped with the monster. Then I became pregnant. A small, foolish part of me hoped a child would change him, bring back the man I fell in love with. It only made things worse. He saw our children, our two beautiful children, as his property. Another tool to control me. Those promises of a dual heritage upbringing were a joke. They would be raised only in his faith. Their names, their education, their future, it was all his to decide. I was just the vessel. I thought about suicide. The thought of just ending the pain was a constant whisper. But then I'd look at my children's faces, and I knew I couldn't leave them. I had to survive. For them. For 9 years, I stayed. I stayed for my children, telling myself a broken home was worse than an abusive one. I hoped that if I just became more obedient, the man I once knew would come back. But the abuse chipped away at my soul until I was just a ghost in my own life. I was lost and terrified. My own family's words echoed in my head. This is your karma, suffer it. I felt like I had nowhere to turn. The breaking point wasn't a punch or a scream. It came in a moment of chilling silence. Our daughter, only 3 years old, was playing and accidentally knocked over a glass of water. A normal kid mistake. But the look on her face, it wasn't the look of a child who made a mistake. It was just pure fear. She looked at me, her eyes wide with terror, and then glanced at the door, expecting her father to erupt. In that instant, I woke up. The fog of denial and fear that had shrouded my mind for years just cleared. I finally saw that by staying, I wasn't protecting my children. I was teaching them that this was normal. I was teaching my daughter to be afraid, to make herself small to appease a man's rage. I was teaching my son that this is how men treat women. He hadn't even laid a hand on them, but his reign of terror had already claimed them. I looked at my daughter, frozen in fear over a spilled glass of water, and I knew I had to get them out. Staying for them wasn't an option anymore. Leaving for them was the only choice. That decision flipped a switch in my brain. The fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach. But for the first time in years, something else was there too. Resolve. The question was no longer if I would leave, but how. I started planning in secret. It felt like plotting a prison break. He monitored my phone, so I had to be careful. I began reporting incidents to the police. Always afterward, I was too scared to call during, just to create a paper trail I knew I would need. I found an advocate through a helpline I called from a payphone. She helped me create a safety plan. She told me to pack a go bag with our passports, birth certificates, a change of clothes, and any cash I could secretly stash away. I hid it in the back of my children's closet behind a pile of old toys, praying he would never find it. Every day was a performance. I played the submissive wife while my mind was racing, planning. The waiting was agony. I had to pick the right moment. The chance came on a Tuesday. He had a business trip and would be out of town overnight. The night before, I could barely breathe, lying next to him, pretending to be asleep, my body rigid with terror. The next morning, I went through the motions. I made breakfast. I kissed him goodbye at the door, my stomach churning. "I'll miss you," I said, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. The second his car was out of the driveway, I flew into action. "We're going on a surprise trip," I told the kids, trying to keep my voice light as my hands shook. I grabbed the go bag. I took one last look around the house that had been my gilded cage. I didn't take anything else. The memories were poisoned. I just took my children and the bag. I walked out the front door and I didn't look back. Every step away from that house felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. The fear was overwhelming, but for the first time in 9 years, I felt a flicker of hope. Escaping the house wasn't the end of the battle. It was the beginning of a new terrifying war. The first few weeks were a blur. We stayed in a shelter, a place filled with women whose eyes held the same haunted look as mine. For the first time, I wasn't alone in my story, but I was constantly looking over my shoulder, terrified he would find us. He called my phone hundreds of times a day. The messages swung wildly from tearful apologies, begging me to come home, to venomous threats, promising he would find me and make me pay. The man, so respected in the community, now used that reputation as his weapon. He launched a smear campaign, telling everyone I was mentally unstable, an unfit mother who had kidnapped his children. He had friends in high places, and he used them. The legal battle was brutal. In court, he was calm, collected, believable. He painted me as hysterical and vindictive. It was his word against mine. For a long time, it felt like the world was on his side. My own family, when I finally reached out in desperation, offered no support at first. "We warned you," my father said. "You made your bed, now lie in it." Those words nearly broke me. I was completely alone, but I refused to give up. The memory of my daughter's terrified face was burned into my mind. I fought with everything I had. I had the police reports. The advocate from the shelter stood by me, guiding me through the maze of the legal system. Slowly, painstakingly, the truth began to emerge. His perfect facade started to crack. During this time, I found support in the most unexpected places. An old colleague reached out, not to judge, but to listen. She brought groceries to the shelter. A support group of women shared their own stories, giving me the strength to keep going. They became the family I had lost. These small acts of kindness were lifelines. They reminded me there was still good in the world. The custody battle lasted for over a year. It was the hardest year of my life. Some days I just wanted to give in to make it stop. But every time I felt weak, I would look at my son and daughter. I saw the light slowly coming back into their eyes. I saw them laugh without looking over their shoulders. I saw them being kids again, and I knew I had to keep fighting. Finally, the day came. The court granted me full custody. I remember sitting in my car after the verdict, unable to move, just sobbing. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of profound, gut-wrenching relief. The war wasn't over, but the biggest battle had been won. My children were safe. They were mine. It's been 3 years since I ran. My life isn't a fairy tale. The scars are still there. I still have nightmares. Some days the anger and fear rise up and threaten to pull me under. The trauma gets stored in your body, and my body still keeps the score. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a messy, ongoing process. I had to rebuild my entire life from ashes, with 2 small children depending on me. My relationship with my birth family is slowly mending. After the court case, after the truth was laid bare, they began to understand. It's still strained, but there is love there. There's hope. And amidst the struggle, there's also a profound peace. I am free. I can wear what I want. I can celebrate Diwali with my children, lining our small balcony with diyas, their faces glowing in the light. I am raising them in a home filled not with fear, but with love and honesty. I'm teaching them about their heritage, both sides of it, but on our terms, with the openness it should have had from the beginning. I'm telling my story not for pity, but because I know I am not the only one. If you're listening to this, and my story sounds like yours, please know you are not alone. If your partner's love feels like it comes with conditions, if you're being asked to shrink yourself to keep the peace, that is not love. It's control. Abuse isn't always a fist. Sometimes it's a whisper that tells you you're worthless. Sometimes it's the slow isolation from everyone who loves you. Leaving is the most dangerous time. Please, if you are planning to leave, reach out for help. Create a safety plan. Tell someone you trust. There are people who will believe you. My battle was for my children's future. I wanted to show them what strength looks like. That it's better to break your life into a million pieces and build it back up than to live a single day in a cage. There's a scripture that says he rescued me because he delights in me. I believe I was rescued not by magic, but by the fierce, desperate love a mother has for her children, and by a strength I never knew I had. My name is my own again. My faith is my own again. My future is my own again. And that is a truth worth fighting for. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to tell, but I believe in the power of speaking our truth. If you or someone you know is in a situation like this, I have placed links to domestic violence resources in the description below. You are not alone, and help is available. Please, if you feel comfortable, share a piece of your own story in the comments. Let's create a community of support for each other right here. Your story matters.